Unlock the path to healing with Exposed podcast. Join us as therapists from around the world break mental health taboos, share powerful stories, and provide insights that transform lives. Tune in, educate, and thrive.
If you or anyone else is struggling with a mental illness, please don't struggle by yourself. Please admit that I am struggling. If you're one of these people like I was who smiles when I wanted to cry, cry and tell people, yes, I'm smiling, but on the inside, I'm not.
Hello and welcome to Expose podcast. In today's show, we have with us Jamie Goudeau. She is a licensed professional consultant for South Central Louisiana. She is a wife, mother, and grandmother. She works for mental health therapists in her hometown and writes for Epoch Times, advocating for mental health awareness. Welcome, Jamie. So thank you so much for being able to come for our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about this opportunity.
We just met 2 weeks ago, and it's such an easiness and pleasure to talk with you. You have been working as a therapist for years now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And mental health, it's a topic which, touches so many of us, if not our family, then coworkers, friends. Could you share with our audience some of the common misconceptions about mental health that you aim to dispel through your work?
I sure can. It's a passion of mine to help people to understand that there are many myths, there are many common misconceptions, and I hope that this program can help us, this podcast can help people to understand and help us all to stomp the stigma of mental illness. So one of the things that I have found in working with people who are mentally ill is that there is a misconception that people who are mentally ill are also always violent. And that is not the case. A lot of people have anger problems, but that does not necessarily mean that it's going to translate into violence. And also, because you are a violent person does not automatically mean that you have a mental illness. It may mean that you have something that you need to work on, but the two don't always mean one or the other. So I think that is something that people need to understand. Anger may be something that you need to work on, and it may be something that is important to yourself and your family, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a violent personality. The other thing is, oftentimes people believe that if you are mentally ill, you can just snap out of it. Like you can turn it on and off. And if you try just a little bit harder, then maybe today you won't be depressed. If you try a little bit harder, then maybe today you won't be so anxious. And also that us people with mental illnesses, that it is a character flaw or a personality weakness. And the truth is, it is a mental illness, and it needs to be differentiated from a character flaw or a personality weakness. Yes, there are things that we may need to work on, but come on, who doesn't need to work on something in their life? Doesn't mean that you have a character flaw because you have a mental health diagnosis. It simply means that there are things that you need to do in order to take care of your mental health diagnosis. The other one is, I've heard this often from people, Counseling doesn't work. It's not necessary. It's a waste of time. And using coping skills is also a waste of time because the only thing you need to do is take a pill and it'll make it all go away. I've actually worked alongside of many psychiatrists, and one psychiatrist who I am very fond of told me that medication management is 15% of what needs to be done to help your mental health diagnosis. The other 85% comes from counseling and hard work on your mental health diagnosis. So 15%, that's a small percentage. And people think that the only thing you need to do is swallow a pill and it's all going to just go away.
Wow, I love those 3 misconceptions you shared. The anger, like sometimes people even don't know how to act around people with mental health. And I was growing up with brother who has bipolar, and I was diagnosed with schizophrenia at one point, and because of you just the mental, as you know, as a professional, when you start young, and you don't treat it, it can change into different mental health issues, which makes sense because of if that was a body, if you don't focus on your broken arm, there is going to be something worse coming.
Yes, absolutely.
So you mentioned something also powerful, that those are the things the patient can control, but doesn't mean they can control. They need tools, therapy, consulting support, group support, and 15%. I've never heard that, and I think that has to be a more shout out on that hey, it's only 15%. There's a lot of work to do, which we cannot leave those people alone, because of when you struggle with mental illness, you really need the tribe, because you can think logically about what's good for you. I'm just in my perspective watching over my brother. But enough about me. I just wanted to share that because I know that this can touch other relatives to someone with mental issues. And here we go with the motives. What was your focus? What motivated you to focus on bipolar disorder in your book?
The reason that I wrote the book, Lucrecia, Memoir of a Manic Woman, is because I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder with psychosis at the age of 28. No one in my family had been diagnosed up until that point with a mental illness, so it came as a shock to everyone. And it took me a long time to accept it, and then to finally begin to work on it once I fought the denial and I did accept it. So it took me many years to find stability. And part of that was because I had little support. And another part of that was because there were not many facilities in my hometown that I could use in order to be able to get the counseling that I needed to get well. So most of it came from self-help. Well, that made me realize that there are many people out there who struggle either with poor support, lack of resources, or they're held back by the many misconceptions and the stigma. And so I felt led by God to write my book and focus on bipolar disorder and my journey of overcoming mental illness, so that I could provide hope to people that you can have a mental health diagnosis and it can be a debilitating diagnosis and you can still overcome it. Even with the challenges that I faced, it is possible to overcome it. So my desire is twofold. I want to stomp the stigma, which means that I want to spread the word of mental illness and mental health. And I also want to give people hope that it's not the end of the world because you have been diagnosed with a mental illness.
I love it so much what you just said, that this is not, can you say again? 'Cause this is not
It,
the end of the world. I just like how
it
you said it.
it's not the end of the world because you've been diagnosed with a mental illness. Life can go on. You can still have a full and satisfying life, even with a mental illness.
Can you share with us some of the daily challenges which um, people who struggle with mental issues, bipolar, for example, face in their daily life, and how can we as a society make it easier for them to go back when they are coming from hospital, or sometimes from some relapses?
So I think that one of the most common one is motivation. And that's kind of where people get off in believing that it's a personality flaw or weakness, is people struggle with the motivation to do what they need to do in order to meet the demands of their mental illness and to get well. And so struggling with that, what you need is someone who loves you enough to come alongside of you and say, hey, you know what? I'm here. I'm here for you. We're going to make this. We're going to do this, and reminding them one day at a time, one day at a time. Take the first step. Don't worry about the next step till you take the first one. There are other things such as depression, anxiety, inability to make rational decisions, such as, let's say one day I wake up and I just feel like, you know what, I can't even do this today. And rather than challenging your emotions and saying, no, I have responsibilities, I throw the covers over my head and go back to sleep and decide that I'm going to call in to work. And I do that 2 or 3 times a week. Well, you're going to end up losing your job. And then things are going to snowball because now you no longer have a job to pay your bills. So it's a matter of understanding those things are going to happen. There's going to be times that you have hard days. There's going to be times where you lack motivation. And part of what you're going to have to do is make a pact with yourself. I'm going to get well. And if my emotions tell me to stay in bed, when I know I'm not sick and I can get up and face the day, I'm going to have to push past the emotions and I'm going to have to get up anyway. That's a hard thing to do. It's hard to discipline yourself to push past your emotions, but that is something that I had to learn to do, was evaluate, are my emotions being accurate? Am I sick? Am I really sick? Or am I just giving in to the depression and instead I need to push past it?
That's a really powerful monologue to have, and it feels like you have done so much work to get where you are now.
Absolutely.
And it also proves that we all can do that. Like if you have been struggling with getting the meds, and being consistent with that, the consistency is a hard thing really in mental issues, because it feels like the whole world is made for healthy people.
Yes.
When you don't match certain time schedule, you're out. You feel discluded. You feel alone,
Yes.
and almost feels like you're invisible.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
And
You're absolutely right.
and growing up with my brother, like many times I felt, what if I get this sickness, right? I was like afraid of, because I have it in history. My father had it, like similar diagnosis, and it almost was like, wow, I didn't get it. Oh my God. But I could. And that's why I feel like we just don't have enough awareness what it is. Because if we did, we will be more compassionate and the workplace will be more ready and open. for
Yes.
those people to come to work. And I mean, work, it's hard to even, stand up, wake up. But I just wanted to send a lot of love to people who are going through it, because this is the one podcast and just to bring some awareness. But yeah, I believe doing talks like this will help. Talking about hope, what message do you hope readers will take away from your book?
I hope that they will see that someone who has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder is not crazy. We are not crazy. We are not violent. We are not riddled with character flaws, personality weaknesses. And we need support. We need understanding. We need you to come alongside of us and encourage us to do better, just like you want to do better every single day. We need you to make us feel that there is a place for us in this world. And we, all of us, need to work on doing that together. We need to lock hands and we need to say, you know what? It's not okay that there are people out there who are choosing suicide or choosing drugs in order to not have to face their mental illness alone. Because you're right, many, many, many people feel alone. And the reason that they feel so alone is because in many cases, they have been abandoned by their family members. And so they do feel that they're unloved and they feel that they're not heard. And we need to do something to stop that. And that's why I hope that people read my book. I hope they pass it around. And I hope they have a passion like I do for the people out there who are struggling, who are hurting, who are in pain every single day and have no idea how they're going to make it. Buy my book, give it to them, tell them, you know what? She was there. Look, whenever I was diagnosed at 28, I was 110 pounds. In 10 days, I withered down to 89 pounds because I spent 10 days in bed and refused to eat. The only thing I got up to do was use the restroom. I refused to eat. I refused to brush my teeth. I refused to get up and brush my hair and face the day. And I got to the point where I was suicidal. Even with the church coming and praying for me, with my children saying, Mom, we need you, with my husband at the time saying, you need to get up and face the day, with everything, it was too much. And so I needed a mental health facility. I needed my diagnosis. But afterwards, I needed my family. I needed support. I needed encouragement. And that's what the book is about. It's very raw. It's very transparent. And it depicts someone who lived the life of a bipolar person who hurt many people, who hurt herself, and who had to finally take a good hard look in the mirror and say, you and me, we're going to work on this. We're going to do this. And then I reached out to God and said, you're going to have to help me. You're going to have to lead me out of this dark hole that I have dug for myself because I didn't want to accept that I had bipolar disorder.
Can I ask you, well, thank you for sharing all of that, because I feel so much power in your voice. And I love it, because that's really bringing a new, someone out there is going to hear your story and be like, feel not only inspired, but it's going to remember in their journey when things get tough that they're not alone, even though it sounds like, everybody says it nowadays, but it's true, because otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Yes.
Wouldn't be here. Can I ask you, what helped you to accept the diagnosis and actually start your own healing? Because so many times people stop taking the pills, medicine, because it has side effects. They don't feel like themselves.
Mhm.
There's many side effects, which I totally understand why people will stop taking those pills. But what helped you to be consistent with the therapy and medicines?
So I'm glad you asked that question. You're right. Many people lack consistency because one of the symptoms of the illness, anyone who has mental illness, is the idea that when you're doing well and you have been consistent for 6 to 8 weeks and now you're well, I don't need these meds anymore. I don't need them anymore. I'm well. So I can do it without the meds. And I went through that. I didn't want to take medicine. When I was younger, I would pray and ask God to heal me of a headache, and He would. So when I got bipolar disorder, I'm like, well, I'm going to just pray and God's going to heal me. And He chose not to, at least not through simply taking medication or simply saying, hey, God, heal me, touch me, and I'm healed, right? So I did that. I went through about 3 years of taking my meds 6 to 8 weeks at a time, feeling like, okay, you know what? I prayed, God healed me. He finally touched me. I don't need these meds. Throw them in the toilet, flush them, and then start stumbling backwards into old behaviors and have to call my doctor and say, okay, I did it again. Can you please write me another script? Because I threw my meds away again. And after doing this for about 3 years, the man that I was married to, my second husband, said to me one day, if you do this again, if you throw your meds away again, I'm going to take your 3 children who were married to my first husband. I mean, I'm sorry, when I was married to my first husband, and I'm going to send them back to him to raise. And I'm going to take our son and I'm going to leave you, and you're going to be left to figure this out by yourself. And that was not something that I was willing to chance. And so I made a decision that I need to deal with this, or it's going to destroy my entire family. And so I began reading about serotonin deficiency, and I began embarking on my journey of wellness at that point. He left me no choice. And for that, I am grateful that he did that.
So what I hear, well, congratulations for taking that step. It felt like frightening because there you were with the possibility of losing your children, all what you had, and it woke you up, the pain.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Mm,
It was hard. It was
mhm.
very.
Yeah, it's hard on the other side to help someone who is going through it because it feels like it's at the end of the day their decision, right?
Yes.
And you cannot spend your life trying to save them,
Yes. You're absolutely right.
which is hard when you're a mother or, that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of really difficult. But are there any effective coping strategies for coping with the symptoms of the bipolar disorder, which help you to have, less ups and downs or be more watchful for them?
I have found a number of different coping strategies. Um, I am a big believer in cognitive behavioral therapy. And I use a lot of the different techniques, such as mindfulness. Mindfulness has been huge in my life. It has taught me to be unjudgmentally aware. It's taught me to observe my behavior. It's taught me to detach from my thoughts and be able to make a decision as to which thoughts I'm going to embrace and buy into and give energy to, are the ones I'm just going to let pass because I don't want to give them energy. It's taught me to stay in the moment, and that's very important. You can't live in yesterday, can't live in tomorrow. So appreciate the moment, live in the moment. I have also realized that I need to take care of myself. So I'm very careful as far as my diet is concerned. Stay away from carbs. That's hard. I love brownies. I also exercise every day. My daughters and I walk 2 to 3 miles a day. I drink water. I drink about 6 bottles of water a day. Lots of green tea. And very, very much holding myself accountable. I have to do these things, and I have to be consistent. Taking medicine, I don't take medicine anymore, but it's because I have been healed enough through my journey that I don't have to. But if you're prescribed medication, you need to take it, and you need to be consistent in taking your medicine. You need to find a good counselor. You need to let her help you to learn coping skills to deal with the depression, the anxiety, the mania, and you need to be honest and listen to her. You also need to have 3 people that you give permission to speak into your life that you trust so that they can give you feedback on how they feel that you are doing until you develop insight into how you're doing. I also feel that my faith is absolutely imperative, and leaning on God and trusting Him rather than my emotions was huge.
Wow, that's powerful ingredients for the mental health. Thank you so much for sharing and being on the show. Is there anything else would you like to add? You want us to remember?
I would like to say that if you or anyone else is struggling with a mental illness, please don't struggle by yourself. Please admit that I am struggling. If you're one of these people like I was who smiles when I wanted to cry, cry and tell people, yes, I'm smiling, but on the inside, I'm not. I'm unhappy. I'm desperate. I need help. Go out, get the help that you need, and do this for yourself and do this for your family. My mental illness helped me to ruin 2 marriages. Now I'm happily married because I took care of my mental illness. Also, seek God. Seek God and let Him guide you and direct you.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for not quitting on yourself and kept going through all those ups and downs, and now being such a powerful advocate for people around the world, giving hope that living with mental disorders and having good quality of life and having healthy relationships with yourself and others is possible.
Yes.
And I'm so glad. I'm looking forward to having more chat in the future with you and reaching more people with your messages. Please let us know how we can find you.
So you can find me on Facebook, Jamie Goudeau. You can find me on LinkedIn, also Jamie Goudeau. And also, if you're interested in purchasing my book, it is Lucrecia, Lucrecia, and it can be found on leadership.com or amazon.com.
And I will add all those links. So make sure follow Jamie on social media. And thank you everyone for your attention, and see you in the next episode.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this interview. And please subscribe my YouTube channel. For you, it's a one click. For me, it means the possibility to continue creating impact in the world with those videos. Thank you, and see you soon.